Just kind of go into detail on like the creation, where it started as like in the 1980s and like the fine-tunement along the way as you've learned.
Yeah, that's it's been a long 40 years now almost. Yeah, 39 years. That Phoenix Rising's been in existence. So yeah, it was basically an accident that it was created. I mean, I had some experiences myself through deep immersion into yoga practice. I was living in an ashram at the time and doing a lot of deep practice. And it dawned on me one in a couple of experiences that this was just a great way to get clarity of mind, like things that had been kind of like niggling at me for years, all of a sudden found resolution because I wasn't trying to process it with my mind. I was letting my body do the work. I was coming into full presence, full embodied presence. And in that state, rather than trying to think things out or figure things out, there was just awareness that arose from nowhere. It was almost like wisdom coming from who knows where. And it was beautiful. And the more I studied the eight limbs of yoga, I could see that it made sense. If you think about the eight limbs of yoga, um, the top four are really that deep inner state. It's not like the first four limbs of yoga are all the externals, particularly asana and pranayama. And a lot of people think asana is yoga, but asana is really just one aspect of yoga. There's like whole seven others, and particularly the last four. When we get into deeper states of meditation, deeper states of awareness, and actually drop in. I love the term dropping in. So there's a point at which you can drop in, and that's almost like entering the void. You're letting all of the thinking and the chatter and all the future stuff and past stuff just disappears, and you come into now, into the moment, in the void, the emptiness, if you like. And it's there that the magic happens. So Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy really is just a way of helping people get there fairly easily. I mean, you don't have to be a mystic. You don't have to be a yogi who goes off and meditates in a cave for 25 years to get to this stuff. You can do it very easily if the process is carefully and skillfully guided. And, you take your time with it and you acknowledge where you're at and you don't try and, do things that you can't do. You just work at your own pace and you work at a pace. And your yoga therapist knows that. That's what our training's all about, is to actually help people, teach people who deliver the work to know how to do it in a way that works for most people most of the time. Does it work for everybody all the time? No. But most people, most of the time, with enough desire, if you like, and enough willingness to really, the willingness is about letting go. It's just about trust. It's about getting involved with the process and trusting and seeing where you end up. And it's usually where you end up isn't where you think you're going to. It's always a little bit of a surprise. Yeah. So that's kind of what it's about, but I guess I'm not giving you the history. So over the 40 years, we've kind of refined it. Initially, it was kind of like some big bang experiences that I kind of had, and I realized it didn't have to be big bang all the time. Sometimes it can be, but sometimes it can be very slow and subtle. And so I've had changes happen in my life over many years that have taken years sometimes, but it's been a beautiful journey, a beautiful progression and deepening awareness, deepening consciousness, becoming what I feel like is a better human being, able to be present to life in a way that brings a lot more joy, a lot more equanimity, a lot more peace, a lot more love. Yeah. And who wouldn't want that? Yeah. So, if you're someone who's got, periods of time in your life where you're worried about things, you're anxious, and particularly here's the telltale sign. If you do a lot of ruminating, you wake up in the morning and you don't get out of bed, but your mind kicks in and you start thinking about how the future's going to play out and what's going to happen about this and what's going to happen about that, then you're a candidate for this kind of work. You really are, because this is going to help you basically settle the dust of all that overthinking and trying to figure things out. And it's going to bring you back home to your body, back home to a place of peace where you can maybe get a different perspective on what's going on in your life. And maybe it's not so bad after all. Maybe it's actually quite good. But to find that, you've got to be willing to take the journey, to engage in a process like Phoenix Rising Yoga therapy.
Mhm. And the wisdom of the body. The wisdom of the body is like generations. It's so ancient. And
Sure.
it's like the pillar. I mean, if there's one piece of Phoenix Rising yoga therapy, it is the body. It takes it all into account. And I think that's what kind of deciphers it from many other forms of therapy. It's asking the body itself what is going on in this life, and kind of into that, the wisdom of it.
Yeah, it's actually letting the body be the body, and
Hmm.
acknowledging the body, and let's face it, your body is a product of, like, just think back to your ancestors. Like every ancestor you've ever had has played a part in you having the body that you now have. So there's a lot of stuff that's come along for the ride just through that lineage of ancestors, and it's not just the physical body, but it's everything that goes with the energy and the um, how would I put it, the makeup of the human being. Um, we inherit stuff. We behave in certain ways because of the way we were raised as children. We take on fears and anxiety because of what our parents may have done or may not have done. So all of that is walking around with us in our body, and all we got to do is love it, right? Just be there, present with it, and love it for what it is and what it's got, and it'll tell us what we need to do next. It knows. It's got a lot of wisdom. And it's not like it's a kind of figuring out wisdom. It's really like a relaxing into a wisdom that's already there. Like we used to say, I remember many years ago in one of our little catchy adverts for Phoenix Rising, the line was, "Everything you need to know is inside of you." Right? Everything you need to know. All you got to do is take the time to listen. But how to listen, that's really what Phoenix Rising Yoga Therapy helps you with. It helps you learn how to listen to the inside, how to draw wisdom from the inside. Insight is really, or intuition, if you like. Some people will recognize that they have intuition. You just get this felt sense that something's right or something's not right or whatever. And oftentimes it's your body telling you, like, no, don't go down that street. It's not safe. And so you pause and you listen to your intuition. And that works out great. I remember that happened to me once in Sacramento. I was at a bus station. I was going to walk down this dark street, and I decided not to. And within about 10 minutes, someone got mugged down there. And I didn't know. I didn't know that was going to happen, but it did. And if I'd have walked down there, it probably would have been me. But somehow the intuition just kicked in. And we have that about our life, not just about those situations, but we have that knowing about a lot of things in our life. And all we got to do is take the time to listen.
Mhm. And so this process of PRYT, I mean, you fine tune it. Even in the time I've been in it, there's always fine tuning, but it always seems like the pillars, I believe they're called, the pillars they stay the same. It's the fine tuning of, maybe it's a question, or it's like how we hold a container, but the
Yeah,
foundation seems to stay the same for almost 40 years.
yeah. The foundation is the same as it was
Yep.
40 years ago. Yeah, absolutely. But yes, different ways of delivering, like the form around the foundation can change, and we've found that um, we've basically, one of the things we've done is we've created the 6 phases of progression into um, into the process. So there's 6 phases in the process, and we begin, for example, with breathing and move, and we used to always do that, but we never did it in quite the same focused way for the same purpose. Now we know that breath and movement, and neuroscience has taught us this, right? There's actual scientific evidence now to say that when you breathe and move, you create a more receptive state of being, right? And that's what you need to be. You need to be receptive if you're going to engage your body as a source of wisdom. So breathing and moving for 5 or 10 minutes getting your heart rate up a bit, getting your blood flowing, you become more receptive. Yeah. And so that's one of the first things we do most times in a session. We have a concept called the edge, and that's where you create a little bit of discomfort in a yoga posture, not too much, not too little, just about the right amount for you, and it's for you and your body, depending upon, what your body says, and carefully listening to it. But you hang out in this kind of like place we call the edge for a little while, and that's really helps you focus. So that takes you out of your head and into your body. That really transports you to that present-centered embodied state, and then you can drop into that deeper level of awareness. But if you tried to drop in just walking down the street, there's too many distractions. You can't do it. So you got to prepare yourself for that. Yeah. And so we've managed to figure out a process that really works most of the time for most of the people, right? It can be varied. It does not set in stone, and different people will use different aspects of the process, and some may not use certain aspects. And there's a certain readiness to engage it, which we can tell when we're working with someone. And if someone's not ready, they can be prepared for it. There's ways to prepare to be ready to engage a process like this. And so the yoga therapist trained in Phoenix Rising knows that and can see that and will know how to go about that.
That's amazing. And so, how did the edge come to play a part? Like, how did you know you had to get the person to their edge in order for the process
For
to
work.
work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I can remember one day, I was in a forward bend and I was desperately trying to get my head to my toes. I was about 3 or 4 inches or 5 inches away from it, right? And I was struggling, pushing, efforting, why the hell can't I get there, and all the mind stuff's going on. I'm not a good enough yogi, blah, blah, blah. Other people in the room have got better bodies than I have. They can do this. I can't do this, da, 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 da. And this message just somehow came to me like, let all that shit go and just be where you are. Just be where you are, right? So be where I was. Okay, I'm in a forward bend. I can feel my hamstrings and they're not liking it. Well, maybe I back off a little bit. Okay, I back off a little bit and there's still an edge there. I can feel those hamstrings, but they're not screaming and I'm not pushing. And, this doesn't feel so bad. I can kind of hang out here. And I can use this edge as a focus. Why don't I just go and be with what's here? What's here is this sensation in the back of my legs. So I just be there and breathe, be there and breathe. And within the next minute or so, something just let go. My head came down towards my toes, but it was easy. There was no effort in it. And as well as that, there was this flood of emotion came up through my belly and into my chest, and tears started to roll down my face. And I'm like, I don't know what this is all about, but something's going on, right? And so I breathed, and then I came out of the posture, and I came into a more resting posture, and I still had a few tears, and the message came loud and clear. You don't have to try so hard. You're good enough as you are. You just have to be here. You just have to be here. And that was beautiful. It was just so beautiful because here I was struggling with things in my life, and I didn't have to struggle. I could just be with the difficulty, be with the sensation, you're not running away or burying your head in the sand. You're being present to what's here, but you're not making it a struggle. Yeah. And so that was just one posture, one example of that. And I mean, I could tell you hundreds of stories like that about different situations, different postures, different people, that have happened over the years. But it's just a beautiful thing. And when something like that unfolds, it's just like, yeah, it's almost like you knew it all the time, but you really didn't.
Nope, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like at when I went to PRYT level 1, I was in Colorado at that really beautiful, I think it was like Home Collective.
Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah. I know the
When I did
place.
that.
Yeah.
And I was with a partner I think it was the anatomy physiology teacher Hansa, and
Yes. Yeah,
I could.
I saw Hansa just a few weeks ago out in Arizona at the CTAR conference. Yeah, we hung out.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, Hansa.
yeah,
And so I was in the room. She was teaching and a bit about anatomy and physiology, and I just could understand how much wisdom she held in her body. And then we were to partner, and so I went and picked Hansa because I was like, "There's something pulling me towards her." And she had my left leg over my right, so I was like in a on my back with like a twist through my pelvis. And it had been like 5 years, I believe, since my head injury, and I couldn't feel like my whole left side. And so somehow she knew what to do, and she held my left hip in this place. I think it was like 10 to 15 minutes. It was long. And I've never felt anything before or after like this, but that was the day that the dam released, and that was the day I started feeling my whole left side again. So it's like what you're saying, there's something happening here. I'm not sure what the hell's going on, but that was such like a pivotal
yeah.
time in my body and in the
Hmm.
intricacy of the energy, and um
Hmm.
in the deep knowing that someday
Right.
it would give.
Yes. Now, it's interesting, you see, in order to do that, you have to feel safe. So one of the big skills of the yoga therapist is to create that safe container. You're not going to go there if you feel scared, right? So my job and your job as a yoga therapist, if we're working with people, is to create that container where they feel safe and they can let go like you did, and like the story that I told that I did. You have to, it's about letting go, and you don't let go if you don't feel safe.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
And safety, like creating a safe container, there's so many different things that go into it.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I believe, like, as a therapist myself, like, the more I feel at safety in my home and in my body, the more people feel like an innate safety around me, or when they're being held
Yes.
in the container.
Right. Yeah. 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 Presence, acceptance, not judging people, creating options, letting them know they're in control, letting them know that they can always change their mind and stop if they want to. Breath is big. Breathing helps us feel safe. You take a full deep breath. Relax and feel safe. So lots of things we do to help that. Yeah.
Wow. And as PRYT has evolved, what is what has it taught you? Like, what has this process
I
of
could almost
creating?
I could almost write a separate book on just that, Katie.
Yeah.
I think the thing where it's got me now. So for many years, I I was always a good teacher. I always did great work with clients that I served, right? And I knew this stuff. I knew this stuff inside out. I do, you know. But at the same time, I struggled in some areas to apply it to my own life. I
Hmm.
struggled to bring my own life and my own relationships, parenting, um, connections to other people. Uh, I, I had difficulty walking my talk, right? And I wasn't fully aware of that until until fairly recently. So what I've done is I've grown and learned a lot in the last 5 years, and I think I'm more congruent now than I've ever been in my life, and I'm really happy about that. And I've let go of a lot of stuff that I used to do that I would call relatively unskillful, and that feels good. But I'm reminded of how important it is for us as teachers, as spiritual guides, if you want to call that, or Dharma teachers, whatever you want to call us. In those roles, it's so important for us to do our own practice, but also to apply it to our own lives fully, and to not to not think we have to be perfect. I think that's part of what was the block for me, because I had to show up looking good in the world, right? I had to have it all together. That tends to make you not look at your own wounds, your own stuff that needs to heal. You tend to hide that and hide it from yourself even. And so I think what I'm reminded of is, again, that in Buddhism they have the Bodhisattva vow, and it's pretty simple. The simple version of it is I just vow to do my own learning, growing, and transforming so that I may better serve others. But I got to do my own work too. It's not about working with others. It's about working with me so I can better work with others. Yeah. So that's where it's got me, and that's where my commitment is now, is my own growth continuing, right until the day I die.
Yep. And I've seen it all along. I mean, it's just incredible that, how you always continue to learn, you always continue to engage, you always continue to teach, you always continue to apply it to yourself. Um, it is a process of life, like to fill your own cup before you go around
Right.
spilling into everybody others. It's perhaps one of the grandest contraindications of being human.
Yes. And that's the other thing too, to accept our humanness. We're not perfect,
Yep.
and that's okay. It's okay.
Yep. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's what I just really wanted to get on record, the process, the understanding.
Yeah, I hope you got what you can use and it serves you.